Hello, welcome to the Operators Association podcast. I'm your host, former Green Beret Zack, and today I want to talk to you guys about the outdoors, about hunting, about fishing, about camping, about exploring nature. I'm big on the outdoors this month. It's winter. Some people kind of say it's spooky season. I'd like to start by saying it's outdoor season because this is truly when things kind of come to life and the world looks more beautiful, and frankly, the weather's not so damn hot in Texas so you can do stuff. And so the question that I proposed today and that I want to just sort of unpack and ponder on is, does being an outdoorsman, and maybe even more specifically a hunter, make you a better candidate for special operations? Will that make you a better soldier? So let's dive in. Let's talk about the positives here. We're just going to kind of ping back and forth. I'm going to play devil's advocate, but I want to chat about it because, well, I'm not going to tell you why yet. Number one, being comfortable, being wet and cold, and wearing a lot of gear and equipment is a thing. And I wouldn't even say being comfortable, but just being acclimated to that. Sometimes we talk about sleep deprivation, how you truly can't really prepare for sleep deprivation because it's a to what end, right? Your body just rebounds essentially. We're elastic. However, being in the woods and being wet and cold and miserable and is a completely different animal. Wearing a lot of equipment that's bogged down, or sleeping under a tarp, or maybe just sleeping under your whoopee and what is it, a poncho. I mean, I remember in selection a few rainy nights when we were doing land nav. It just happens to rain, right? It fucking rains in the woods, but you go out there and you sleep. And so, I mean, it's pouring down raining, and like you're out there all night, and you only have your rucksack. And so, what do? You pick a tree and you get your poncho and you put your poncho over yourself, or you try to make a lean-to and just do the best that you can with what you got. And if you're a hardcore hunter, right, there's a difference between hunters and hardcore hunters. You may have some practice with that. You may have practice with being uncomfortable, wearing a bunch of shit, having to move, getting up early, having that dew and that cold air on you when you wake up in the morning, just sleeping in the woods in general. For years, I used to sleep in the back of my pickup truck here in DFW. I'd go hunt. I'd go dove hunt and turkey hunt in this public land we have in Decatur. It's called the LBJ National Grasslands. And that was sort of my definition of hunting has been evolving over the years. And, in 2005, when I started working at the Cabela's across the street from the Texas Motor Speedway, we were dove hunting and turkey hunting super cheap, right? I mean, I would sleep in the back of my dad's pickup or my pickup, depending on the timeline. And I'd wake up and go try to execute. And I didn't shoot much, let's just put it that way. But it was fun. It was an interesting experience. And it's not like I did that every weekend, right? But I did it often, 5+ times a year, seven and eight, somewhere in there. I think another pro here is that prep before the hunt. Getting your shit together, getting the equipment together, getting the gear, getting the right weapon, getting the right ammo, having the right license. Like, that's sort of a mission. Like, you're kind of executing a plan there. And that plan is also in the outdoors, which is very militaristic. And so, and then even afterwards, you come back, and if you harvested anything, you've got to clean it, or you've got to clean your weapons, or you've got to dust off your equipment. And so, for example, I just went on this just stupid awesome hunt this past weekend on the Kennedy Ranch, and I haven't talked about it too publicly, but if you guys are hunter or outdoorsmen, you've probably heard of a company called MARSOC, and the co-founder of MARSOC is a guy named Sammy Knight, and Sammy is the one who invited us out there. That's kind of his place on this 30,000 acres down in South Texas. And as soon as we got back every day, I was the first person cleaning my weapon, because that's what you do, right? There's a lot of sand down there. Even the days that I didn't shoot, which, by the way, I shot a lot, or I shouldn't say I shot a lot, but I was the only person to shoot anything big out there, which I was excited about because I kind of did my job, right? But that was a process. Coming back in, like dialing in your gear, making sure everything's good, prepping the night before. That's sort of this mission. And without even knowing it, I think that outdoorsmen and hunters, people that plan like a weekend backpacking trip or a weekend camping trip with their family, there's opportunities there to take that to the next level, right? Say you live in Austin, you guys are like, want to meet up with some OA guys or maybe a girlfriend. You're like, hey, let's go hike the trail. Or you're living in Fort Worth and it's like, let's go bike or run on the Chisholm Trail. Or you live in who knows what, and there's national parks around you, right? There's opportunities to do this in random places, but you turn it into like kind of a mission. Maybe you write it out, maybe you plan it out. Cadre Oliver and I are really good at planning out things now, because we use the same framework we did in our teams. And he takes it to the umpteenth degree and prints out stuff and has it very tidy. I do to the same level, but not to the same degree. And it's neat. It's really interesting. I think that another pro here for hunter or for outdoorsmen in general is that you may be able to spot an enemy or a situation that's developing. One of the things that I learned very early on in hunting is that, or really in spotting, is that if you can understand looking out into a field and finding something horizontal in a vertical world, you can win. Some of the best spotters on the world, when I say spotters, I mean for enemies. I mean at sniper school, not that I went, just so we're clear. I mean at hunting exercises or practically, like if you can understand that out there's enemies or there's deer and everything's vertical, right? So like even humans are vertical out in the field, but deer, nilgai, an elk, a moose, a bear, that's sort of a vertical thing, or excuse me, that's sort of a horizontal animal. And if you can spot rapidly those horizontal patterns inside of a vertical world, meaning the pine trees are vertical, the telephone poles are vertical, the mountains vertical, right? Like everything, the trees are all vertical that you're looking at. And if you can spot out that really quick, well, then you kind of understand what your role is as a spotter. But the thing is that that's what we're talking about here, these reps. These are reps that people can do and execute in being cold and planning a mission and taking as much time as they think it's going to take and getting their gear together and cleaning their gear and then going using it and then coming back and re-cleaning it again and then putting it up in the proper area. That is some team guy shit, guys. Like you're always going to have Gucci shit and you got to clean it, you got to prep it, you got to get it ready, and maybe you got to understand it, right? We did a little bit of that this weekend. The hog that I shot, I got this badass thermal reticle and I didn't even get to use it. I used this other guy's thermal and we literally just slapped it on his gun and bore sighted it for 5 seconds. And then I tacked a moving hog with it, which was pretty cool. But like understanding your gear is a thing in SOF. And so you're going to be constantly dealing with that. And you do it a lot when you're doing outdoors and hunting. People always have some different thing they want to mess with, or some new weapon or some new reticle or some like GPS or maybe an app that kind of shows you the hunting stuff, but you have to dive into it. That kind of shit's what you're going to do on your team. And so, getting accustomed to taking things a little bit deeper during those practical exercises in your life, that's a rep. And reps are vital. That's all you do in training is rep. That's why we have the Crucible series. That's why we do events on the East Coast and in Texas, is because reps are absolutely vital. When you get into the military, you know that and you see it. It's really hard to mimic that beforehand, but it's absolutely important.